The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast are those of the speakers or authors and do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions held by the producers of this broadcast. The material herein is for entertainment purposes only.
Welcome to another episode of Scary Stories with Kalila. I am Kalila Smith, your host, and I am accompanied with my co-host, Allan Gilbreath.
Hello.
And Lynda Salazar.
Hello.
Hello, guys. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good. Doing good.
I was just looking at a nice little story. This is a classic story. Back in the 1930s, a young man by the name of Robert Johnson lived in a rural town in Mississippi. And Robert had dreams of becoming a very famous musician. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this little story. He had dreams of becoming a very famous musician. He had a guitar and he was kind of mediocre on it, but he wanted to become a star. So he was told that if he went down to the crossroads in Rosedale, Mississippi at midnight, that a man would meet him there and tune his guitar. Mm-hmm. And from that point forward, he would play like a master. So Robert did exactly what he was told, and he went down to the crossroads, and he waited. And suddenly, from out of the shadows, a man came up, a big, tall, strong-looking man. And he didn't say a word to Robert. He just took the guitar out of his hand, and he tuned it for him and played a few chords. And he handed it back to him and turned and walked away. From that day forward, Robert Johnson could play guitar like nobody else. He became a very, very famous blues musician for the next couple of years. He had a pretty decent life. He was married to a woman by the name of Virginia, very much in love with his wife. He traveled around, but many people say that it's a classic tale of selling one's soul to the devil. Did Robert Johnson sell his soul to the devil? Many people believe that he did. It wasn't but 2 years later, after he found his fame, that he mysteriously died, strangely being poisoned in a bar. How many people get poisoned in a bar? Nobody knows why or who poisoned him or what the motive was, but his life ended very tragically after getting so much fame from this one tiny meeting that he allegedly had. But he did write a song called The Crossroads Blues, very famous song, talking about his experience going down to this crossroads in Mississippi and his encounter with this mysterious man that he believed to be the devil. From that point forward, it said that whoever recorded that song would befall the curse of the crossroads. So, what do you guys think? Do you guys believe in curses? I mean, we've had a lot of stories about things being haunted and haunted items, and there's haunted dolls and haunted jewelry, but a curse is even worse than being haunted. Because with a haunting, it's there, then maybe it's not there, but with a curse, it seems to go on and transmit from one person to another. It's not just exclusive to one particular situation. Bell Witch story, for example, the Myrtle's Plantation, these seem to be generational curses that occurred, and usually somebody did something to anger spirits that causes this type of a phenomena to occur. In the case of both the Myrtles and the Bell Witch, the bodies of Native Americans were dug up and the graves were desecrated and disrespected. And it's believed that the spirits who guard the burial grounds were angered. There was another case, very famous case of the Hope Diamond, the famous cursed jewel that originally was the eye of an idol. Now, doesn't that sound like Indiana Jones? The eye of an idol was taken out and stolen by some guy, some thief. He goes and he climbs on this idol in a cave, very Indiana Jones-esque, steals the eye out of the idol, and then proceeds to have it chopped up into smaller diamonds and sells it to different people to get rich. And every person who had any kind of connection to that eye of that idol had horrible things happen to them. Horrible accidents, diseases, their children dying.
Well, the Hope Diamond, according to part of the legends that I've heard of, is that the diamond was part of an idol that belonged to the people. It was never designed to be owned by any one person. You know, this was an item of worship. This was like a common item to where the people came and saw it. And the Hope Diamond seems to have the opposite effect of being a curse for its current owner, which happens to be the Smithsonian Institution. So the Hope Diamond is sitting there in full display at the Smithsonian, and it's quite a wonderful draw card. People all over the world for decades have gone to the Smithsonian to see this cursed item.
But nothing happens to those people.
Well, but because it belongs to the people, thus the curse is not activated or in place.
Interesting.
It's
yeah,
on display for the world to see, right?
And this was documented for generations. Even King Louis and Marie Antoinette had the diamond at one time, and of course we all know what happened to them. You know, the whole French Revolution, it did not go well for them. You know, that all went rather poorly for those guys. But there's been time and time again that these cursed items come into play, and whoever has this, now in the case of Robert Johnson, it's not a diamond, it's certainly not an item, but it is a song. And that's
it's
what
also
he
a
created.
cursed guitar.
His guitar.
That's also a guitar touched by the devil.
Well, what happened to his guitar? Do we know?
And again, that's another big mystery. We don't even know where Robert Johnson is buried.
Interesting.
There are some suspected sites, but there's even 2 or 3 grave markers up, generally in the area of Greenwood, Mississippi. And he's allegedly buried not far from the Chinese cemetery. Most people don't realize there's a Chinese cemetery in Greenwood.
Here's the thing about Robert Johnson as well. I had just recently seen on Netflix, I would say early this year, they have a Netflix documentary on him. And it really caught my interest because they talked about that folks that grew up around him, they said he wasn't a great guitar player at all, and that he didn't sing good, and that this was something that he used to get away, and he was shy, and somebody had told him, well, then go play at the cemeteries, and they said that he would go play out at the cemeteries. Now, what I did find odd about the whole thing is there was one thing that they talked about towards the ending of his death. They said that they think what happened was that he got in a spat with 2 other fellows, and back in those days when a fight broke out, you never took your bottle of whiskey it was supposed to be closed. You were supposed to open it up yourself.
Right.
They think what happened was they put poison in it. The bartender gave him an open bottle of whiskey, and therefore he poured it, and he drank what was poison and died a very slow death. And they said it was a horrible death, and I think it took a month. It took a month or 2. It was like really bad. So on that note, it makes you wonder, okay, did he really sign a pact? Or was this a coincidence? But how did somebody that didn't play that well, and I mean, it was kind of neat to see that you're hearing people that knew they talked to folks that were they went to his hometown, and they talked to folks there, and folks that knew him. Even I think his great grandkid talked, and I mean it was just one of those things that it made you wonder, okay, how did someone that didn't play very well and didn't sing very well become great?
It's happened before. Yeah, it's happened before. You know, Jelly Roll Morton, who's considered to be, one of the fathers of jazz music here in New Orleans. Jelly Roll Morton, according to not just legends, but it's historical fact, that he was raised by his grandmother, but he also had an aunt who was supposedly a voodoo priestess. And Jelly Roll Morton wanted to be the father of jazz. And he struck up a deal with his voodoo priestess godmother, his aunt, and she supposedly put a spell on him to make him the most famous jazz performer in New Orleans. And he became accredited with being the father of jazz, the creator of jazz. Everybody, talked about Jelly Roll. But the way the deal worked out was that he could only remain famous as long as she was alive. So when she died, he had to die. And it is documented that on the day that she died, hours later, Jelly Roll, even though he was a young man, mysteriously dropped dead.
Wow. You see, things like that sometimes makes you wonder, because it's how a coincidence. Was he very close to his aunt? Makes you wonder.
Apparently, according to the story, yes, he was. He was very close to this woman, and
it could have been a broken heart. People can die of a broken heart, and maybe, how young was he when he passed away?
I'm not sure, but I mean, he was, he had to be in his 20s or 30s.
But it does pique your interest of what if the great.
But supposedly he was not that great of a jazz player prior to having this spell put on him, and supposedly this is what happened, and that's what they say anyway. And but I don't know of anything of Jelly Roll as being cursed beyond Jelly Roll in that particular instance. But Robert Johnson, the song itself is cursed, and everyone who covered the song befell tragedy. So we're going to take a little break, and later on, at the end of the show, we're going to talk about some of the other stars who covered this particular piece of music, very famous people, and what happened to some of them, because it gets a little trippy. It's a little eerie. But I think when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the movies that were cursed. We'll be right back.
Imagine it's the year 2020. With so many podcasts, streams, and interesting stations, you've finally found your paranormal hotspot. We want to personally invite you to join the discussion by tuning in and listening to The Seance Room. With all new and returning guests, intriguing investigative explorations, and scintillating conversations with the beyond. With your hosts, Victor and Lynda Salazar.
Hey, Victor here. Are you ready to evoke strange curiosities? Walk through parallel dimensions and delve together into the controversial science of paraphenomena.
Afraid to question the shadow in your room, footsteps down the hall when no one's home? Bothered you'll become one of those people? Leaving no stone unturned, no topic unanswered. Dim the lights. Turn up the volume. This is Lynda. You've reached the threshold of your Parapodcast.
Let's not forget Norma, a.k.a. Mama C.
Hi, I'm Mama C. Grab your favorite cocktail, find your comfy spot, and join me as we engage in some supernatural interactions that will knock your boots off.
Oh, and I'm Rick. I just sit behind all the pretty blinking lights. Be ready. Welcome to the seance.
Haunted airwaves. Conversations with the beyond. Chilling messages from spirits and odd entities. The spirits are going live.
All right, we are back. So let's talk a little bit, change gears here a little bit, talk about some of the cursed movies, because there's been a few movies out there that seem to have a lot of problems, and they were usually about something to do with the paranormal. And
Yes.
one of the most famous ones is The Curse of Poltergeist.
We're
Lynda.
taking it back to 1982, the very first film of the Poltergeist. Folks said that they thought it was cursed, and they felt that it all started when the actress, the one that played the sister, which was Dominique Dunn, she was the sister, and apparently, what happened was she was killed by her ex-boyfriend.
Yeah.
And this caused her to not appear later on in the movie of part 2. But, so people talked about that. They were like, is it cursed? And then, of course, then you have the what if. People said that the skeletons that you see in the swimming pool are real human skeletons, because
That's what
it
I
was
heard,
cheaper.
that they used real cadavers in that. And I don't know if that's
Yes, because they said, and you got to keep in mind, in the 80s, nothing wasn't really that strict like it is now. And if, Spielberg thought it was great to, instead of using fake skeletons, why not use the real deal? Because it was going to be cheaper, and not only that, folks donated their body to science.
Yeah,
And
that's a horrible urban legend.
and so they
even in the
say,
80s, even
they-
in the
they-
80s, no one would
I
have
don't know,
allowed
Alan.
anyone.
I don't
Well,
know.
there's also
don't
the
know.
lovely picture of Steven Spielberg sitting on the body of the Tyrannosaurus Rex, not the T-Rex, of the of the Triceratops, and there was actually an outburst when this picture came out that Steven Spielberg had shot a Triceratops and was posing with it like a trophy.
Okay, that's a bit much.
That is a bit
That's
much.
a bit much.
That's
built
a
it.
bit much.
So
That is
yeah,
a bit much.
I've heard the legend that they had, all right, let's just say this way. Real human skeletons, A, don't stick together. B, don't float. C, cost an amazing amount of money when you can run down to your neighborhood freight shop, which is open year-round in Hollywood, and for $9.99 buy an entire bag of human bones that will float beautifully in your pool. So, yeah, that's just. I know.
Don't shoot the messenger. I'm only
I
reading
know,
what
but I get upset when you look at this and you go, no. Like, Hollywood's whole purpose is to lie to us.
Of course.
Make us believe that which we don't. If you don't see it, you don't know it. You don't, the whole thing is myth and misdirection. And occasionally a movie comes out like The Exorcist or Poltergeist or Blade Runner, or some movie comes along and does it so well that people suspend disbelief. After the movie Avatar got done, do you realize there were entire therapist practices based on bringing people down from watching the movie?
Oh, God. gosh. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So is Avatar cursed because everybody wants to be a 9-foot tall, skinny blue cat person?
No, that's
Or
why
did they-
there's Comic
No,
Con.
that's just
Well, there was. There's not
that's
this
just
year.
silly stuff.
I'm just saying that's why you have
But-
Comic Cons to play out and fulfill those characters that you
But-
see.
But
But
Kalila
now,
is-
how do you explain all of these people dying who were affiliated with the movie? Yes, you had
I did look
Dominique Dunn.
into that.
Dominique Dunn, she was killed by the boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, very tragically.
Mhm.
Horrible, horrible murder. But then the little girl, Heather O'Rourke.
Well, you just didn't
Heather
have Heather
O'Rourke dies
O'Rourke.
from this, bizarre, set of circumstances, some weird disease that she's getting an operation for, and dies in the middle of surgery. I mean, otherwise healthy. I mean, they diagnosed her with Crohn's disease, okay, which, is not a nice disease at all, and very, very painful, and people suffer with it. But nonetheless, most people with Crohn's disease can function and usually live. I mean, this was a healthy kid. This was a child.
And then, of course,
let's pick on an
everybody
earlier
ties.
movie.
And then everybody ties on Julian Beck, the one that played the pastor
Mhm.
in part 2. People don't realize that he already had cancer, and this is what Spielberg. He was just something that, someone that they saw and they were like, he fits the image of the pastor to have that scary look, and that was really his last thing that he did because of the fact that he had a stomach cancer, and people associated that, it was a curse, but all along he knew he had cancer, and he was at the end of his stages of cancer, and that is why you see the appearance of why he looks the way he looks. Now, people do say about also the
Will
Indian.
Sampson.
Yeah, Will Sampson, that he died a little after because he did an exorcism to make sure that the spirits remained because of all the curses that were happening. And they said that he died right after.
Well, he died getting now. Wait. Now check this out though. He died getting a heart/lung transplant. Who gets both? I mean, really? I mean, that's pretty cursed. Okay.
Yeah, that's like getting an engine and transmission in the same day. Yeah,
that's a big deal. I mean, it's Heather O'Rourke. She had some sort of obstruction in the bowels due to what they thought they maybe misdiagnosed Crohn's, but nonetheless, it was rather sudden and unexpected for that child to die in surgery. But I mean, this guy, what befell him that he needed not just a heart transplant or a lung transplant? He needed both. I mean,
right.
Who has to get both?
Well, let's back up. Let's go to an even earlier movie.
It's extreme.
Let's go back to an earlier movie. Let's go back.
Okay.
Let's go back to a truly terrible big budget movie starring, of all people, John Wayne. For some bizarre reason, John Wayne, and John Wayne was an amazing icon of American theater, but for some bizarre reason, they decided they were going to film The Conqueror Lord. And John Wayne was going to star as Genghis Khan, the Mongol who took over the world.
How? That's pretty bizarre.
The makeup job on him alone, let's just say today, was beyond racially insensitive.
Oh, Jesus.
So here Hollywood goes, and they go film this immense dog of a movie.
Yeah, that's got the blueprint of really upsetting somebody's ancestors and spirits. I mean, that's just, you're kind of asking for trouble on that one.
They went and they filmed this dog, and if you really want to see some truly horrific acting, all you got to do is watch John Wayne right up as the Conqueror Lord, all done up like a Mongol. except they've left one tiny little thing out.
Oh no.
And that would have been anything that resembled a voice lesson. Because here this giant 6'3"
Oh my God.
comes riding up, jumps off his horse, and goes, "All right, Chamuga, let's get these Mongols out of here." And you're just watching this going,
Oh my God.
That's so
That is bad.
You know this. You know you are in for a bad cinematic experience. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the reason I'm bringing this movie up. They filmed it in Snow Valley, Nevada. This means nothing to you today.
No, but certainly
do you know
not
where do you know where just prior to I don't know, Nagasaki, Hiroshima, 2 words mean anything to you?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Guess where they tested that?
That's where they tested all of those bombs.
The bombs.
And then these people went there, and let's just say a number of people, including John Wayne himself,
got cancer,
died of cancers later in their life.
Yeah.
Because they went when it was still freshly done. I mean, yeah. Radiation was very, very strong.
Now, if we're going to say there was ever a cursed movie, I'm going to say these people unknowingly and accidentally were put in harm's way.
The area, but still, something.
But they didn't know.
Something had to tip them off that this will not go well.
I thought the script alone was enough to make you not go there. But
that's what I'm saying. It's like, come on, really? And John Wayne.
And using his voice.
That guy.
Yeah, you could look it up. It was called The Conqueror Lord, John Wayne. And if you want to say if there was...
I don't even want to look it up. I don't want to.
Then if you want to talk about curses, we also need to go back and look way back and go back to a very, very large man who happened to invade the Earth from Mars. I'm pausing dramatically while everybody tries to figure out who I'm talking about. Orson Welles. Orson Welles.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking of. I was like, Robin Williams?
No. Well, here's Orson Welles comes along and does a radio show.
War of the Worlds. Oh gosh, yes, that was.
Through a lot of urban legend, because 90% of the stuff they say about it really didn't happen the way they said it. But the urban legend, and Orson played it well. And the next thing you know, Orson is filming Citizen Kane, and which is now still recognized as one of the best movies ever made. But then Orson wanted to get more into his passion and wanted to do this kind of docudrama, and was involving, for lack of a better word, voodoo practitioners. He was going to go down to Haiti.
Go wrong.
He was going to go down to Haiti, and they were going to include, he wanted to include the real deal in the movie.
Oh, boy.
And there was a misunderstanding with one of the religious head-ups, and after a meeting, Orson came back to his office, and there was a nail driven through the center of the manuscript. So, needless to say, the movie never got made.
Yeah.
And Orson Welles himself would tell you right there live on Johnny Carson that, apparently they didn't like what I said, so they put a curse on the script, and it never happened. That movie went away.
There you go.
And I'm going.
Oh, he's lucky they didn't make him go away. I say he got off. I say he got off pretty good on that deal. But we're going to take a little break and be right back.
Submitted for your approval. New Orleans. Seductive, magical, mysterious, and haunted. There is no place on this earth with as much ghost and vampire activity as New Orleans. Imagine, if you will, a tour. A tour that takes you to sites in the French Quarter of actual documented hauntings. The Haunted History Tour is just that tour. Every day, every night, all year round. This This tour has been featured on ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN, and it's available to you. Are there ghosts and vampires in the French Quarter? Find out by taking the tour that everyone is talking about, the Haunted History Tour. For more information, call Haunted History Tours at 861-2727. That's 861-2727. This is not a Halloween spookhouse. This is real.
We're back, and Allan, it's time for you to do your thing and analyze this. So, what do you say? Curse is real, curse is not real. What do you say?
I'm probably going to shock you a little bit. I'm going to tell you that a curse is real from a certain point of view.
Wow, I'm speechless.
Linda's just going.
He's got my attention. I'm listening.
He has my attention, though.
Okay, here's the idea. All right. Linda, secretly, I really don't like Victor, so I'm gonna and I'm gonna put the evil eye on Victor. All right. None of that makes any difference what you do at home in the privacy of your own home. It doesn't matter. We talk nasty about people all the time. God, just watch anybody in politics these days. We've all been cursed over, been called ugly names, at least sometime in your life. The trick is, psychologically, does it have an effect? Now, the kicker here is, people don't understand the probability factor of micro decisions. You've made tens of thousands of tiny little micro decisions that will lead you to a certain outcome. Major decisions. Did you go to the bathroom before you sat down to film? Are you going to be squirming the entire time? Did you have something to drink? Do you have, did you prepare yourself to be, these are all those little things that go into it. So now let's get to the curse part. So now you got the crazy old grandma, or you got to still have a Scooby-Doo factor. You still got to have something, Linda is actually the descendant of Aztec royalty, and with that comes the ability for Linda to put the Aztec whammy on somebody. Well, all somebody else has to do is believe that. And Linda done put the Aztec whammy on me. So psychologically, it can begin to affect you. And here's the amazing part. We have people right now today in prison because they put a curse on somebody.
Yeah.
And it's not, I was just looking at this a little while ago. I was doing a little research on it. And it's not one or two isolated cases.
It's numerous.
There are plenty of cases. Well, my grandmama was from Africa, so I have the ability to put this kind of whammy on you. My favorite one is everybody has somebody in their family that knows somebody that knows how to spell the word voodoo. And, and what a judge said in one of the rulings was, I am not ruling on the validity of a curse as to whether or not your thoughts have any bearing. But what your thoughts do is show your intent. You went and hired an undercover police officer to put a hex or whammy on somebody, fully intending for it to cause harm. That's the same thing as trying to hire somebody to kill you. It's just the method with which you're going to kill them. Somebody wants you shot, somebody wants you stabbed, somebody wants you hit by a car, or somebody wants you to go find Tutankhamun and tick him off and die some horrible way. And I think that psychologically enough people are predisposed to go with that. And if you have to accept the power of suggestion, And the easiest example, I'll even defeat my own self in my own argument. If you don't believe in the power of suggestion, then why do we have advertising? Advertising is there to give you the power of suggestion that, hey, you really do want this cool new breakfast cereal, or that you really do need this part for your car. Well, a curse is that same psychological nudge, because somebody has to let you know you've been cursed. It's not a secret thing. Well, Allan, I see you just bought the Bodine place down the street here. You know, of course, what happened in the cornfield, right? Yep, there you go. And now you've begun the micro decisions and the little things that fall in place. And as for these groups of misfortunes, you take any 10, 20, or 30 people, any 10 people you want in a group, and track them for the next 5 years, there will be plenty of misfortune. Well, right after, right. Oh my God. I actually told a training class a couple of weeks ago. I said, guys, think back 5 years ago, and you were filling out a job application somewhere, and it said, where do you think you're going to be in 5 years? And I asked them, did any of you think you were going to be in the middle of the apocalypse?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So you think of everybody you know right now. You think of 20 people, and you look back over the last 2 years. Look at the number of misfortunes that have befallen within that tiny little group. And especially with 2020, we all know there's been plenty of misfortunes. Well, right after Allan, Kalila, and Lynda went to that party, well, everybody lost their job in March. The COVID came in, the this happened, the this, So, I mean, we're humans, and we love to have a reason for something to happen. And especially, and I hate to pick on actors and actresses and entertainers, but let's face it, we're not normal people. We're extremophiles. But we are.
Telling people they're not normal.
Well, how many people, Kalila, have you stood in front of before? What's the largest group you've been in front of?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I didn't count heads. I don't know.
A lot?
It was a lot. Yeah, it was a lot. I don't count them though. I don't.
Lynda, how many people have seen you on television?
Oh Lord.
How many, did you think about that when that camera aimed at you? How many people were on the other end?
I never really thought about it. I never gave it any thought as to how many people were watching. I really didn't.
And see, that's just it. You don't give it any thought. It was just part of what you were doing that day for a job.
Right.
I freaked out after. You don't think about it during when it happened. And I think I had my big aha freak out moment was when I knew it was going to air. Not just one. I got hit twice in a month, and now every year it's watched and it's become normal. But it's one of those things, like you said, how many people are watching it? And yes, it does kind of freak you out when you finally realize.
I never thought about it. I never gave it any thought. I just did it. I just never. Really,
but we're people that go do things the average person doesn't go do. Nobody will tell you Mork and Mindy is cursed. Mork and Mindy was a funny show. Mork and Mindy, well, it had to have been cursed.
Oh, well, that kind of makes, I can tell you why people would have thought it was cursed.
Well, I'm the only one that's ever said it was cursed.
But
I promise you.
Think about it. But people could run. People could run with that because, the actress that played Mindy had that, show called My Sister Sam. So you know how people would have picked that up and say, oh yeah, I can see why it's cursed. Because what happened to the one that played her sister? A stalker. She got stalked. So yes, it was
but that's kind of
coincidence.
Yeah, that's kind of way off.
Well, I'm just pointing out.
But
If
he's
anybody
pointing
had
out-
said
she
it,
also married Mark Harmon, so let's face it. I mean, come on. There was no curse involved there. Come on.
well, look at the ultimate fate of Robin Williams.
Well, yeah,
How many other
he died,
how many other actors or actresses over his years and all of the people he's worked with in his movies, how many of them have befallen misfortunes?
Well, of course. Well, everybody befalls misfortunes.
Exactly. It's
strange things. Strange.
But when you
stuff.
But when you go make a movie like Poltergeist, now everybody's looking for something strange to happen. Since the Curse of Tutankhamun, we're looking for these things to happen. Because that's the grandest curse of all time. Ye who enter, beware ye who enter here and disturb the boy king. Yeah. We're going to put a curse on you. And
that's a big one.
Then you look back in time and, the guy funding the dig dies. People working on the dig die. Well, so did people digging the well down the street. But we weren't looking for, nobody came over and said, if you dig a hole in the ground right here, you're going to be cursed. So, there is a certain amount of media attention that has to go into a curse.
True.
But I'm going to put my own caveat on it and go, that means nothing to the person that actually believes it.
True.
If you believe it, honestly, if Kalila, if you believed that there was a mouse somewhere under your couch, every weird little sound, every little hint of anything that could be a mouse under that couch, you would now hear, see, and convince yourself beyond the nth degree that you got a rodent living under that couch.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. A lot of the many curses. Usually, I will say the vast majority of alleged curses are self-fulfilling prophecies because you believe that you're cursed.
Mm-hmm. But look at the number of people that will stand up in court and put a curse on the judge and the people that are sending them to prison. And you're like, oh, you're actually threatening this person with harm.
Well, we're going to take another break and we're going to come back because there were people who did befall some very strange things that recorded the song The Crossroads. And one in particular is very, very bizarre what happened to these people. And there seems to be only one person that's redeemed themselves from the curse. So we'll be right back. Follow me, Kalila Smith, into the mysterious world of spirits. Searching for Spirits, the ultimate guide for ghost hunters, is a concise how-to manual for anyone who enjoys a good ghost hunt. Learn the history of spiritualism, learn what a ghost is and what is not. Learn the truth about poltergeist. We'll also delve into the realm of spiritual beings that never were human, the world of demons, real vampires, and we'll look at some real case studies. This is a must-have for everyone interested in ghost hunting, from the novice to the expert. Completely updated in its second edition, this is one of the first guides for ghost hunting based on actual first-hand experiences. Available on Amazon.com. Searching for Spirits, the ultimate guide for ghost hunters by Kalila Smith. Okay, so we are back, and strangely enough, while we were on our break, Lynda disappeared. So we're talking about curses. Lynda has totally vanished. So, is it a curse? I don't know. What could have happened?
I just hope it's a bad case of stomach flu. It just,
Now we have to explain this. It's actually her husband. Her husband started becoming very violently ill while she was on the show. Victor became very violently ill. So
discussing curses. This is how the legends begin.
This is how it happens. So now
oh my gosh.
Curse of scary stories.
It is. It
It
is.
is. It's going to be the curse of scary stories. But anyway, let's talk a little bit about some of the people who recorded the song The Crossroads. And it's not just you went to a pub and you played the song. I'm talking people that used it on an album, and there's been quite a few. We don't have enough time to mention all of them, but one of the first ones that comes to mind, of course, is Eric Clapton.
Yes.
Eric Clapton made that song very, very popular, his rendition of it. And he's had some horrible things happen to him in his life.
Yes, he has.
The worst thing was, of course, losing his son to a terrible, terrible accident. But, as the story goes, they say that Eric Clapton is the one who also killed the curse because he turned around and called a rehab center, the Crossroads Rehab Center, and has helped a lot of people out with it. And supposedly that broke the curse. But also Leonard Skinner, the band from the 70s, Leonard Skinner, I mean, they did a cover of the song Crossroads, and they had a horrible accident in an airplane crash. Yeah. Didn't kill all of them, but it killed a lot. It killed most of the band. Yeah. And that was just a bizarre kind of thing that happened.
Well, rock and roll and, I'd say musicians and airplanes have been a bad combination for a lot of years.
Oh, yeah. I mean, look at the thing with, Buddy Holly, the Big Bopper, and Ricky, who was his name?
Ricky Valens.
Yeah, that was horrible. Horrible. But one of the most bizarre instances of the Crossroads, one of the bands who did a cover of the Crossroads was, of course, the Allman Brothers. Mm-hmm. And the Allman Brothers, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Dwayne is the one who sang the song. And Dwayne Allman died very tragically in a motorcycle accident on a specific highway at a specific curve.
Wow.
And he was killed. He got hit by a truck or something, okay? Something came around the curve and boom, hit him, instantly killed him. Now, where it becomes freaky is that he was replaced in the band by Barry Oakley, who sometime later, and I've got to look up the dates before I say it was actually the same time of year, but sometime later, Barry Oakley was killed right around the same time frame on the same street, in the same curve, in the same manner.
Wow.
You see, that kind of makes you go, oh, whoa, that's kind of, that's kind of interesting because very, very tragic. But what are the odds that the person who replaced him would have been killed exactly the same way?
Again, I always go back to the probability of micro decisions, because if you are in the same area, participating in the same lifestyle, doing the same things, then the probability something similar can happen to you goes up exponentially. If you're both into motorcycles and you're both into this and you're both into that, coincidence and serendipity are very strange things. The human mind just doesn't want to accept that strange things happen all the time.
Okay, so
but we really don't want to accept tragedy.
No, we don't. But this is really, kind of crazy because Dwayne Allman was really at that time the leader of the Allman Brothers. I mean, later, of course, Greg became the leader, but Dwayne was the leader, and he is the one that sang the song "The Crossroads." And he died on, I'm reading this directly from Rolling Stone magazine, Friday, October 29th, from massive injuries received in a motorcycle crash in Macon, Georgia. He was 24 years old. Okay. He had been visiting the band's big house to wish Barry Oakley's wife a happy birthday. Shortly after leaving the house around 5:45, he swerved to avoid a truck which was moving in the same direction, but he evidently not seen at the time that it had turned onto the street. The cycle skidded, turned over, and pinned Allman underneath the truck as it traveled another 50 feet. Yeah, it was horrible. Absolutely horrible. So, absolutely horrible. Now, that was in October. When did I say that was? That was October 29th. It doesn't say the year. It's 1971, it looks like. So let's look at Barry Oakley. He died November 11th, 1972.
Same time of year, yeah, a year later.
A little over a year later, he died on November 11th, 1972. Oakley was involved in a motorcycle accident in Macon, Georgia, just 3 blocks from where Dwayne Allman had his fatal motorcycle accident the year before. He was riding around a sharp curve right behind on a road when he crossed the line and collided at an angle with a big city bus. Oakley was thrown from his bike just as Allman had been and struck his head. Yeah, I mean, that story always kind of haunted me. That story always made me think that there had to be something to the curse. Because what are the odds of those 2 guys dying just like that?
Yeah, but we'll throw in that they're participating in the same behaviors in the exact same place on the exact same road. There's so many similarities, and they're because they happened at the exact same place. The Oakleys didn't move. He still lived right there in Macon. They still lived on that road. He's still, even though he knew what happened to his friend, he's still riding motorcycles up and down that same road.
Right. Yeah, that's true, but still.
And
I mean, what are the odds of that happening, though?
It's horrible. Oh yeah, it's horrible.
Bizarre. It's very bizarre, and it really makes you wonder, but again, after that happened and after what happened to Leonard Skinner with their accident and all of the things that Eric Clapton had been through, it seems that once he straightened out his life and opened up that rehab center and called it Crossroads, that kind of put an end to the curse of the Crossroads, or so it seems.
Well, we're going to say we certainly hope so.
Yes,
but
because it was a very
don't go hang out in the middle of the country in the middle of the night at midnight in strange places to meet unknown people. I think that's the takeaway lesson here.
Yeah, the takeaway lesson is don't go there. Now, I will add a little bit extra to this because there's a very strange cemetery here in New Orleans that's got nothing to do with any of these people. It is a cemetery called Holt Cemetery, where a lot of people who could not afford a big burial got buried. I mean, they buried people right in the ground. And lots of times the bones come up and so forth. And
the water table's not too good.
No, it's not. But my point in saying this is we have had a lot of paranormal activity inside Holt Cemetery. And I am talking things that you wouldn't believe if you wouldn't have been there. For instance, one night I was there on a bus tour. I was actually conducting the bus tour. I had 24 people in the bus. And this is where we could take them inside Holt Cemetery. It's late at night. It's a 9:30 tour, so it's going on 11 o'clock at night. I've got 24 people in a bus taking them into the spooky cemetery. We get out of the bus. I tell them, do not walk down this particular road because if you get too far down there, you won't hear me when I call you to come out. When I say we got to leave, we got to leave. So the people were walking around, they were taking photographs, and as I was gathering everybody up, calling everybody, I became very aware of a woman walking down that road. Now, this lady was not in period clothing. She looked like she could have been me. She's just older lady. It's summertime. She's wearing these like Bermuda shorts and a top, and she's got a purse on her hand, very modern clothing. She's got two could have been teenagers or young adult kids with her, a boy and a girl, and they're walking down the street that I said, don't go down there. So I start calling them back. Come on, guys, we gotta go. Let's go. And I'm getting louder and louder. Let's go. You really need to come back. It's time for us to leave. We don't want to get locked in here. It's time to go. Right. And at some point, I turned, and out of the corner of my eye, I see 24 people behind me. And I said, oh, well, if you're here, then who is that? Vanished. Right before my very eyes, they vanished. So that was one of the first of several instances where I literally saw with my naked eye full-bodied apparitions that appeared and then disappeared in that cemetery. And I always wondered if that was some sort of an intersection, portal, if you will, of the two worlds coming together.
A crossroads, if you wish. Yes.
The crossroads. Now, where's the creepy part come in? Holt Cemetery is situated right off of City Park Avenue, and there's a street that runs behind Holt Cemetery. Would you like to know the name of the street?
Go for it.
Rosedale Drive.
There we go.
Which intersects with Virginia Court. Robert Johnson's wife was named Virginia.
Virginia. Mm-hmm.
So
that's just one of those cool things. Yeah.
It's a cool thing. It's a very bizarre thing, but it still does not take away from the fact that there's something very, very strange going on at the crossroads of Rosedale inside Holt Cemetery.
Yeah.
So
we live in a very strange world.
We do indeed, and we are going to have a cemetery episode as well, talking about more of these portals and some of the crazy stories that have happened there. But for now, we are going to say thank you all for coming and joining us. This has been a lot of fun. Look for us on Facebook, join our private group, and join us again for another episode of Scary Stories with Kalila. Good night, everybody.
Good night.